Subway has teamed up with Live Nation to bring you great food and great music for a great value. Right now, buy a Subway $5 footlong and get a Live Nation concert ticket for $5 to participating Live Nation shows like Nickelback, The Fray, and Crew Fest 2. Ticket price does not include fees. See store for details. Subway. Eat fresh. Eat fresh. The B.S. Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The B.S. Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the B.S. Report. Taping this on a Thursday. It's going to run on Friday, but I'm about to call my buddy JackO at work on the Subway Fresh Take hotline. Joe Mead queued up.
Bill, JackO, partners in crime. The Subway Fresh Take hotline.
An intro. We've increased the production value. Wow. That was our friends Theocracy who created that was pretty cool. I don't know if I want more production value or if that was already too much, but I enjoyed it. Anyway, on the Subway Fresh Take hotline right now, my buddy JackO, diehard Yankee fan, always willing to talk baseball, especially this week with the Yankees shining. Let's call him at work.
Complex Litigation, this is John.
Oh, Johnny.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's the way I like to hear it.
Johnny.
Willie, how are you, buddy?
Como se dice?
Are you okay? You all right? I'm
all
here.
right.
Let's talk about it.
I'm ready for NFL.
You are already?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're locking out?
Not locking out, just,
No, not really feeling good?
Well, when reading Buster Olney's thing today and reading Gaiman's yesterday and the lack of urgency, and then it goes into that whole thing. Well, you don't want to make trades because your fans are panicking, and it's like, I'm not panicking. It's just we're not going to win the World Series this year. Isn't the goal to win the World Series? You want to make a trade that, you're not panicking, but at the same time you're improving your team short term, and you have to give something up to do that.
Right. John Henry loves the prospects, though. That's what I saw something on the internet today about his Twitter. He twittered the Boston Globe, or he just twittered and the Boston Globe saw it and said they love their prospects. They love them. Don't want to trade them. Can't part with them.
Clay Buchholz, who they're telling everybody is going to be an ace, and he may be, may not be. I don't know, but
right.
He was awful last year.
Yeah.
He seems like one of those guys who is really good with no pressure in AAA, but we just don't know. And
right.
I'm of the opinion when you have a prospect and you just don't know, then you gotta flip them for somebody that's going to be that could help you win.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to flip them for Joe Schmo, but if you get Gammons
Victor Martinez,
Gammons wrote that they could have gotten Victor Martinez for Buchholz, and I tweeted about it, and then people were like, "You're an idiot. You don't know anything about baseball." And it's like, actually, I kind of do. Like, I just feel like this team needs a boost. We need a bat. Even if we have him for 1.5 years, he leaves, we get the draft picks. But as we've always discussed, when you have a chance to get a guy who will create handshakes for every guy on your team, you got to go get him.
Got to do it.
I'd be so excited for his Dustin Pedroia handshake.
Clay Buchholz, one, he has a losing record in the major leagues because he was so bad last year, and an ERA over 5, I believe, in the majors.
Right.
People get excited about, oh, my God, look, he's lighting up AAA. I would just remind those people that that's the same league where Keiagawa was an all-star this year.
Right.
Keiagawa made the all-star team, so let's not go too nuts about Clay Buchholz and his 2.3 ERA in that same league. Let's calm down about that a little bit.
Well, and the other thing is, there's a difference between somebody like Buchholz and somebody like Phil Hughes. Like, Phil Hughes was somebody who had all the tools, and it was kind of a mental thing for him, but you knew if he put it together, he was going to be dominant, and now we're seeing it from him as the setup guy for the Yankees. Yeah. He's been unbelievable. And I don't know if you noticed, but I tried to reverse jinx him on Twitter.
I noticed that.
And even that didn't work. He's just immune. The bullets bounce off Phil Hughes.
His powers are such that your feeble attempts at reverse jinx just bounce off of him. Like
it's
Iron Man,
unbelievable.
right?
Yeah, I mean, your biggest hole on the Yanks was you didn't have that seventh, eighth inning guy. You didn't have that guy who could the bridge. You didn't need the bridge, and all of a sudden you have the bridge.
Now with the still shaky Phil Koch and then the rock solid Phil Hughes and Mariano, it's kind of like '96 all over again. The ability to shorten games.
Phil Hughes is more than rock solid.
Yeah, he's been huge. He's been great.
I'd like to talk about him more because I'd like to jinx him if I could.
Let's just be quiet. Let's just be quiet about Phil Hughes.
Well, I'll ask you what I asked the people on Twitter. Let's say you gave Barry Bonds.
Yeah, right.
You gave him a
Barry
triple
Bonds
dose of HGH and a quadruple dose of Adderall or whatever he's taking. And then you fed him 40 cups of coffee, and you made fun of his wife right before the at-bat, and he went up to the plate. Would Phil Hughes 3 pitches or 4 to strike him out?
I'm going to take my chances with Phil Hughes in that situation. I feel pretty good about it. Yeah, right, sure, right.
What's it like to have Cy Young on your team?
It's exciting. It's exciting times, absolutely. Yeah.
100% confidence every time he comes in, I'm sure.
I feel good about Phil Hughes, yeah, in that role. No question about it.
Fans have really eaten him up.
They have. They love some Phil Hughes.
The thing that if I was a Yankee fan, I'd be excited about was just how indestructible he is. Like, he's just such a dominating physical presence.
I'm not going to participate in that. Take it easy.
Well, I'm just saying.
Then he pulls a hammy or blows out.
I don't think so. I think
that's what you're rooting for. That's what you're rooting for.
I don't think so. I think physically this guy is coming into his own. He's a dominant guy who pitch every day, and he's not going to get hurt.
How about that weather? It's been crazy lately, huh?
Do you think he'll give up a run this season?
I'm sure he will. Probably in a crucial situation.
What's the record for most consecutive relief appearances without giving up a run?
I'd have to check on that. I'd have to go to the book on that one.
How many radar guns has he broken?
None that I'm aware of.
Joe Meade.
Yes.
Joe Meade?
Yes.
You've been following baseball a long time. Have you ever seen anybody dominate like Phil Hughes is dominating right now?
Oh, no. Like Phil Hughes?
Phil Hughes.
He's like the best pitcher in the history of the game.
He's at least the best reliever.
Oh, yeah.
When he comes in, you just feel like, 1, 2, 3.
I just turn the TV off. I know it's over.
Yeah. See, even Joe Meade.
Well, there you have it.
Listen, Johnny, I think all the cards have aligned. You guys are the clear favorites.
They can clear out the parade route down Fifth Avenue.
I
will say this, all reverse jinx attempts and jokes aside. I do feel
these aren't reverse jinx and jokes attempts. I resent that.
Right, yeah, of course.
I'm just telling you how I feel.
And I'm going to go this far, and I'm going to make a bold pronouncement, and mark this down because this could be where it all turns around. I don't think the Red Sox team, as currently constituted, is very good. I haven't thought they were very good for a long time. I realize they're 8-0 against the Yankees, but I just don't think that's a great team. I think J.D. Drew is the single most overpaid player in the history of organized sports at $14 million per year to hit .230. He's awful.
Hey, he hit us the Grand Slam in 2007.
That's right. That was.
He made up most of the money.
That was the $70 million Grand Slam, so I guess it was worth it for that.
It was.
But you look at their lineup, and it's anemic. It's terrible. Jason Bay has come back to earth. Everybody who was like, Manny who? We don't need Manny. Do you still feel that same way, folks? With Jason Bay hitting a crisp .250 and he hasn't had an RBI in about a month?
Well, it's not just that he's hitting a crisp .250, is that he was hitting over 300 about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, he was hitting 310 and he's dropped 60 points. He's
in a free fall.
In the end of June, he had like 67 RBIs, and now at the end of July, he has 72. He's had 5 RBIs in a month, and I think 1 home run.
I love Gambon snuck in a little dig at him about he was like, Jason Bay, his stats have dropped. That's so coincidentally after his agent asked for Teixeira money. It's like
a little shot across the bow there.
Well, it's like I'm not willing to say those two events were related.
Yeah,
I don't think Jason Bay's agent was like, "Hey, Jason, I just asked for Teixeira money," and Jason Bay was like, "Oh my God, what am I gonna? I have to come through. I got to get 3 hits tonight." Like baseball players are idiots. They don't think that way.
They don't care about that.
Jason Bay's like, "Hey, has anyone seen my bat?" It's a brown one.
You know what's an interesting corollary is his slump has coincided with his becoming a U.S. citizen. I think the Canadians are some sort of Canadian voodoo, right? Is what I think it is.
When did that happen?
It happened like around July 4th. July 4th, I read in the paper, it was right around that time that he became an American citizen.
Maybe the Canada's not rooting for him anymore, and that sent him into a tailspin.
I don't think so. I think the Canada was like, hey, it's better for the organization up here there, Jason. And people are definitely rooting against him. The Canadian thing, I think, might be working. They're working against him.
I like Jason Bay. I think he's been a solid alternative to, if they really had to drive Manny out of town and maybe, in retrospect, if the fertility drug thing had happened.
Oh, God, yeah.
In Boston, the city would have shut down.
Would have been the apocalypse, right.
So maybe it worked out for the best. But
actually, Boston would have justified it just like they did Rodney Harrison's use of steroids, which is never mentioned again. So I'm sure it wouldn't have been that big a deal, actually.
You think I had Seth Meyers on the podcast yesterday, and I was talking about how unbelievable it was that Kennedy got elected right after Chappaquiddick. Maybe we would have handled it like the Chappaquiddick thing. It's fine.
Exactly, right.
8 hours, guy was rattled.
He's our hometown boy. It's okay. It's all right.
To be fair, we're taping this on a Thursday, but we're running it on Friday. So I'm taping this one right after the Seth Meyers one, which is why I thought of that. But
okay.
Hold on, I got to ask you quickly. Did you see that show?
Which show?
The Ted Kennedy HBO show?
No, I didn't. I did not see that one. No.
I'd like you to watch that show so we could discuss it on the next BS Report.
All right.
I mean, I know you're a diehard Republican.
I'll have to get HBO between now and then, but that's not the problem. I don't have HBO.
Come on, how do you see Hung?
That's how I didn't see it. Yeah, that's how I missed it.
Let me tell you something. You might be onto something with not having HBO.
Yeah. I like it. I had HBO because I loved the show Deadwood, and then they took Deadwood off the air, and I still liked HBO because I like Curb Your Enthusiasm. But that's been on hiatus for about 4 years now, seemingly, so I don't really have any need to have HBO.
Yeah, Larry David got divorced, and now that show is taking 4 years to run because I think he's making up for lost time out here.
Can't kill him on that one. Yeah.
Anybody want to have a drink with the creator of Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm? Anybody? 22-year-olds? Anybody?
That is $100 million in my pocket, and yes, I'm glad to see you. Yes.
Would you like to see my Hamptons house? Biggest one in the block. Back to Jason Bay. I like Jason Bay.
Mm-hmm. Nice guy.
Unfortunately, when he's one of the focal points of the team, I'm not sure where you're going.
Well, that's the thing that I get a kick out of is in the Boston propaganda. They're like, well, Jason Bay's got to snap out of it, and all his splits, first half, second half, it's always solid and the same numbers, and he'll put up big numbers. Well, he put up big numbers in Pittsburgh with no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah.
The team was 25 games out of first place every year. He played 2 months in the AL East last year after they got rid of Manny, and there was some pressure on him because he, quote-unquote, had to fill Manny's shoes. But he was playing on a good team that was rolling along, and he played 2 months there. And then he has half a season in the AL East now. And apparently the American League has figured out that he has an inexplicable inability to hit a breaking ball, which they now throw him a steady diet of. So I'm not so sure that we can say, well, his numbers with Pittsburgh, he was fine. Now we can just pencil him in for the same numbers in the second half. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, but
well, unfortunately, the breaking ball thing was something I think the Red Sox fans realized last year. I don't know what took the American League this long to catch up with it, but maybe they need to see these guys.
Scouts that could have informed them of that fact when he single-handedly beat them earlier this year.
The other thing is he has a noodle arm.
Yeah.
He put it this way: he's not somebody who should be asking to share money. I like him.
Right. Talk about pricing
solid.
yourself right out of the market with your play. I mean, that's just ridiculous. He's going to take a big hit in the free agent market.
Oh, and also, what kind of free agent market is it?
Right.
Who's going to be bidding on all of these guys?
That's a good point.
Oakland's basically offering they're going to have to pay half or most of Matt Holliday's salary just to get rid of him. And this is somebody they thought either was going to hit the hell out of the ball or they'd be able to flip him for like a huge package. I don't think so, Oakland.
Not so much.
On ESPN.com, Patrick Ruby wrote a column about the geniuses. Mm-hmm. And it was about people who were considered geniuses but basically had to be decertified after years and years of not being a genius, kind of ruined the part where they were supposed to be genius.
Okay.
It was a really good idea. I liked it. But I think Billy Beane's at that point.
Yeah, I think so. If you had the team stinks.
Team stunk for a while.
Not working.
No.
They've never won he still has never won a playoff series.
Well, and also, what kind of monster prospect have the Oakland A's come up with the last few years?
Who have they produced?
Derek Barton, I remember he was one of the first picks in our AL Keeper League, in our minor league draft. The guy's barely hanging on. This guy was supposed to be, the next Giambi.
I mean,
as a catcher.
Going back to the not doing the Clay Buchholz for Victor Martinez thing, I think that all these guys, these younger GMs, have become so enamored with the Moneyball thing and with Billy Beane that you just like they salivate over their prospects and they refuse to part with them, and they grossly overvalue their prospects.
I agree.
And it's because it's like when you're in a fantasy sports league and all these guys try to do way too much homework, and you try to be like too clever by half, and you pick some obscure player because you're going to show everybody how smart you are, that you found this diamond in the rough, and he turns out to put up big numbers.
Right.
No, go get the guy everyone's heard of. Go pick him. That's how you win fantasy leagues. Don't try to be clever. You don't get style points. Go get the big guy that produces year after year after year.
This is a big passion of mine. Now the NBA has thankfully finally gravitated away from it, but there was a stretch in the NBA where the GMs actually wanted to take Nicholas Tishkavili over Amar Stoudemire. It's like, oh, this guy is going to be the next Dirk Nowitzki, really?
Right.
And then if he is, you get the credit, but unfortunately what the fans didn't realize is 80% of the time it doesn't happen.
Right.
And then you're stuck with Nicholas Tishkavili.
Every GM wanted to be the guy, like you were in some gym in Estonia with no roof, and you found this guy that no one ever heard of, and you were going to be like, and then he turns into Wilt Chamberlain, and you're like, wow, what a genius.
The worst thing that happened in the draft was the Kevin Garnett pick and the Dirk Nowitzki pick, which were 3 years apart, and after those two happened, everybody's like, looking for the next one.
In the European, yeah.
Yeah, and really the Garnett thing, looking back, the Garnett-Kobe combo was pretty fluky. Those guys mentally had a different makeup than really anybody you're going to see come out of high school.
There's a lot more Kwame Browns than there were Kevin Garnetts.
Right, and then the Nowitzki thing, a 7-footer with 30-foot range. I don't know if we're seeing that again. Sorry. But, yeah, back to your point, like, this Buchholz thing, I don't know. I feel like we haven't really seen it. With the no-hitter, he's been coasting on that for a year and a half. And
he pitched a no-hitter. I mean, it's a no-hitter. You can't take it away from him.
Right.
But he pitched a no-hitter in September against call-ups against the Baltimore Orioles,
right,
filled with September call-ups from their organization. He was essentially pitching in AAA again.
It was a great moment, and I'm glad it happened, and I enjoyed it, and I was very excited about him. But, this goes back to the show me something thing. Phil Hughes, I think, was at the point with you, correct?
Oh, God, yeah.
And I'll reverse jinxes aside. You're at the point with Phil Hughes where you're like, Phil, effing show me something. Show me one thing. Just come through once. Show me something.
Last year he didn't have a single win, and he was an atrocity. He had all these weird, crazy injuries, and they were like testing his eyesight, and you thought it was never going to happen for Phil Hughes. And
then they start bringing him out in the 8th inning, basically out of desperation.
Exactly, because they had to put him somewhere, right?
But no pressure. Because it wasn't like, hey, Phil, we need you to be our 8th inning guy. It was kind of like, Phil, literally, we have nobody else to throw out. Here you go. Here's the ball. If you don't work out, we're going to try the janitor next.
Right.
And Phil came through.
He's been huge.
And he's showing you something. And I guess my point is, at some point, you got to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I don't think I'm creating the wheel here, but at some point, you got to show something.
Reading the Boston papers on the internet, you would think that Clay Buchholz was like the next Nolan Ryan. Like, just pencil him in as the next Nolan Ryan. Because fans always think that these prospects, because they've been fed a dish of hype repeatedly by the organization, so they always think like these guys are the second coming. And more often than not, they're not.
Well, you know what really hurt in this respect, and this is why everyone in Boston is so terrified to give up prospects, is the Hanley Ramirez thing, the way that played out.
Yeah.
But here's what people don't understand, or people seem to forget.
And going back in time, the Jeff Bagwell for Larry Anderson thing.
But that was
haunting ones.
The Jeff Bagwell thing was one of those things where you knew immediately it was idiotic. Because it was like this guy, my dad and I had been watching his box scores. He was in New Britain, ironically.
Right.
But I'll never forget reading the quote where the New Britain manager was upset because nobody had told him they were thinking of trading him. I think it was like Butch Hobson. I don't even remember.
Might have been. He was the manager there for a while.
He was just furious that Luke Gorman had never called him. And basically they had made the organizational decision that Scott Cooper was a better prospect than Jeff Bagwell, and that Bagwell would be the guy they sacrificed to make a run. And then, by the way, Anderson was actually pretty good for them.
Yeah, they needed him to get the playoffs.
They made the playoffs, and they went against the 98s. What can you do? But they never even called the New Britain manager to be like, hey,
what do you think?
It's not a bad idea to trade Jeff Bagwell, right? Like, that call was never made. Now baseball's a little differently, and it's so much more interconnected, and these guys know when their prospects, are constipated, they know about it a minute later.
Right.
But I think with this Hanley thing, people forget that this guy was a huge prospect when they traded him. They knew, but they were also getting Josh Beckett, who was 25 years old.
Who won you the 2007 World Series.
Yeah, it was a good trade.
On his back, right.
Goal is to win the World Series. That trade won us the World Series. And, on top of that, they knew they were giving up something. So
right.
It's not like they were like, wow, I can't believe Hanley Ramirez panned out.
No, he was always widely praised prospect, and always they considered he was going to be a superstar someday.
Yeah, I don't know if people thought he would be the number one player in baseball, which is what some people were saying as recently as last season. I don't know if that's still. I think Pujols now is. But
and interestingly, that trade was made when Theo was running away in his gorilla suit. So and there was a lot of speculation he wouldn't have made it at the time.
Yeah, and there was also more speculation, which I've always felt was the case, that part of the reason they made that trade was to kind of deflect what was happening with the Theo thing.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it won you another World Series, basically.
It did.
So.
And they,
and not to mention that Mike Lowell was like a throw-in for money in that deal, and he was huge in 2007 for you too.
Oh no, he wasn't a throw-in for money. He was, you have to take this guy if we're giving you Josh Beckett.
Right. That's what I mean.
It was much worse.
I mean, the money thing was that they couldn't pay him. It was like Florida's like, you have to take him because we're not paying him.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by the money aspect.
Well, our goal with Mike Lowell was, I hope he hits 250.
Right.
And he well exceeded the expectations, and so did Hanley Ramirez. But I don't know. We've talked about this before. I just think when you have a chance to get, I'm not putting Victor Martinez in the Johan Santana category, but when you can get somebody that you know is good, that you know is going to fit in with your team, that makes sense for you, that can potentially push you up a tiny level, especially this season that's wide open.
Right.
For them to just say, our move is going to be Adam LaRoche, and then Buster Olney wrote today.
That might be all they do, right?
Yeah, it was like, hey, the Red Sox are in a position where they just need everybody to play better. It's I'm watching this team. I don't know if that's going to happen, Buster.
I know. I just don't think they have enough offense, and this will come back and bite me in the ass now because they'll probably turn things around, just like my Big Papi taunting briefly turned him around. But I just don't think. I mean, they have Pedroia and Euclid who are great, and I don't think there's anyone else in that lineup that not even talk about scares you. I don't think they give you like the faintest flicker of nerves.
Hey, Johnny.
Yeah. That
was the case last season. We had 3 hits in the deciding Game 7 and got blown away by David Price in the ninth. They knew this. They were very aware. Yeah, and you know what? They didn't get him.
Right.
And as it turned out, it was probably a fair price for him.
Right. He's been great. I mean, if the Red Sox had Teixeira, they'd be up by 10. You could make the argument they'd be up by 10 games now.
He's tailed off a little bit.
Yeah. But
I would say
defensively the other night, he had a run-scoring save against the Orioles when they mysteriously could only muster 2 runs against a rookie pitcher for the Orioles. He basically saved the game in the 8th inning by stopping the ball 1 and throwing out the guy at home 2 off balance. It was a phenomenal play. Defensively, he's been so good.
He is your best player.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't even put anybody close to him. I know Jeter's having a good offensive season, but defensively not.
Been huge for them.
Yeah, Teixeira is just across the board is just good at everything.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
And gets on base, works pitch counts, all that stuff.
Hits for power.
The Sox are in this weird thing, like the LaRoche thing. They got, they went out and got Adam LaRoche this week, and the main part of his appeal, well, they had the 2 things, is that he's a great second half hitter.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was kind of arbitrary. Like, he's had a good second half the last 3 years, but he was hitting 109 since July 4th.
Exactly.
So, I don't know.
Tell him the second half has started.
Yeah, the second half started, as far as I'm concerned. He's hitting 109. But they were talking about how he bleeds pitch counts. Another guy who bleeds pitch counts. Mm-hmm. I like the whole bleeding pitch counts things. Absolutely. I think it's effective, but at some point, somebody's got to get a freaking hit.
You got to swing the bat.
Got to hit one in the outfield, Johnny.
That's right.
Got to hit one off the fence or over the wall.
That's J.D. Drew's problem. He takes a lot of pitches, too, and he takes a lot of them for strikes. And then it's 0-2. And then a lot of times he takes a third one.
They also, I don't know, can you not have a personality? Can a team just be missing a personality?
Yeah, they're pretty robotic. Yeah, that's true. They are pretty robotic. Even Big Papi used to
business-like.
Big Papi used to be like this gregarious guy and laughing and joking around. You don't even see that anymore.
Business-like.
I think they took away his buddy Manny, and he's like lifeless.
Yeah, he's old too.
He's old, and he's hitting 220, and
he's been better though.
Yeah, he's been hitting it a ball a little bit anyway. So
he's been okay.
He's all right.
Nothing to write home about.
And I'm sad to see Julio Lugo go. That's another great move by the boy genius there. He signs Edgar Renteria a couple of years ago for $40 million, and then they run him out of town because he stinks, and the Red Sox basically pay his whole salary, and they go out and sign Julio Lugo to a $36 million contract, and then they have to run him out of town because he's pathetic and still pay all of his salary.
You left out the part where we could have had Orlando Cabrera for like 4 years, $25 million.
For like a nickel, right, exactly.
I'm not going to complain because we won the 2007 World Series, but it is interesting, like, it goes back, and I've mentioned this over and over again, like, I really don't think it's that difficult to run a baseball team that has a $140 million payroll.
No, there's not a lot of, there's no questions about money, certainly, so that's never an issue, which is a huge bonus that 90% of the GMs in baseball don't have to deal with. If you're running the Minnesota Twins, money's everything.
You can just make mistakes and it's okay. Like Lugo, it's $10 million out the window. Yeah, Dice K paid $51.4 million just to negotiate with him.
Right, $100 million overall, including his contract.
And he's a debacle.
Say, oops, well, we'll just put him on the deal.
Yeah, it's like, well, that didn't work out. Like, no other team has that luxury. And on top of that, you can go in the draft every year and pay a little bit more. And, at least that's the one thing I think the Sox have figured that out. I think the Yankees are getting there, too. And,
with the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that this is your one real advantage where you could the Red Sox are just throwing money around like crazy with signing like 16-year-old dudes from Latin American countries for $8 million.
Exactly.
And that's the advantage.
Speaking of the draft, this is slightly off topic, but I see where the Nationals may not sign the anchorman, Steven Strasburg.
Yeah, the anchorman might not. What do they do with that?
I don't know.
You know what's a weird rule? And this is one of the 40 terrible things about baseball that I don't understand. The rule that you can't trade a draft pick for a year.
Draft pick. I know, it's ridiculous.
It's like they create new ways to suck fun out of baseball.
Right.
They really, God forbid that Washington could try to trade Steven Strasburg. What was the point of that rule?
Imagine how interesting that would be right now, like if it was a trade deadline thing and so you're some team and you're going to take a flyer because you need another starter. Steven Strasburg.
Stupidest sport. How stupid is baseball? Seriously.
Oh, there'd be so much. That would be crazy. It'd be bigger than Halladay, arguably, because he's younger.
How much interest would be driven, like if Washington had the number one pick and said, yeah, we probably can't pay him. This pick's up for grabs.
Exactly.
It moves that draft to like 5 other higher levels.
Definitely. God forbid you create interest in something in your sport. You wouldn't want to do that.
I know. Well, Seth and I talked about it on our podcast, but I was saying like, with soccer, where the soccer games end in 2 hours, you have to put that in the this is why soccer might have a chance category, because I watch baseball games and have, my wife's like, when's the Red Sox game going to be over? It'll be 5:30 West Coast time. But like, honestly, I have no idea. It might be over at 9 o'clock tonight. I don't know.
Yeah, that is on the downside, the con side for baseball. I agree, but the difference is soccer is 2 hours of watching 20 guys running up and down a field.
That's a negative.
With nothing else. I mean, anytime the announcer, the inflection of his voice gets excited because the ball goes over like the half court line or whatever midfield, you're like, oh, it's stolen back. I mean, you can't get excited when with basketball, like, they're going to score here because they got the ball across half court. I mean, come on.
It's a sport that desperately needs Gus Johnson.
It needs something. I mean, it's just there's not enough excitement. At least in baseball, I know people can find it boring and it's long, but something can happen on every pitch. Guy might get hit in the head. Guy might hit a home run. You might see something you've never seen before. There's some excitement. Guys throwing a ball hard. In soccer, there's not like an equal level of excitement on every single play.
But if you're 15 years old and your life revolves around basically looking up porn, tweeting on things immediately and texting your friends, and just everything you do is immediate.
Yeah.
Any desire or thought or anything that you have can be immediately expressed or consumed.
Instant gratification, yes.
Are you sticking around for a 4-hour baseball game?
No, you're not, and that's a problem. Well, baseball, the dumbest thing they do is they start, I don't want to sound like one of these old cranky sports writers, but they're right in this regard of, these World Series games that start at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I can barely stay awake till the end of like a Yankees-Red Sox playoff game, and I'm ready to like jump out of a window based on the results. So if I'm having trouble staying past 12:30, and granted I'm older, but some kid that has school the next day isn't staying up till 12:30 in the morning.
Well, and then like a great, awesome example was the All-Star game last week.
Yeah.
It started at 8:46 East Coast time. What could possibly be the reason that you would start the All-Star game at 8:46 East Coast time?
Well, isn't the argument, and you live out there, but isn't the argument always, well, we have to wait for the people on the West Coast to get home from work to watch it?
Nobody out here works.
No, I know.
Who are they waiting for?
Right. And you're home for the tail end anyway, which is more important. You could sell advertising saying, well, we'll have more West Coast viewers at the end.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, well, now we're going to have no East Coast viewers at the end.
We have to wait for the West Coast who doesn't care about sports.
Right, because it's 75 degrees and sunny every day.
Nobody in San Diego was sitting around going, when does the All-Star game start?
We need something to do tonight.
Yeah. They were like, hey, who wants to sit in the patio and have wine and grill steaks?
Right.
I don't get it. But on top of it, it's just illogical because the whole goal of baseball is you're supposed to be also catering to your next generation of fans.
Right. Keep it going.
The people who are 5 now in 20 years will be 25 and will be your consumers.
Right.
You are basically reducing their interest to care about your product.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's a huge mistake.
You're saying, yeah, don't watch us, and we're hoping when you're 15, maybe your dad will take you to Cooperstown and you'll give a crap.
You'll start getting interested in it.
Like my buddy Gus, he took his whole family to Cooperstown a couple weeks ago.
That's cool. I always want to go there.
Yeah.
Every year I try to drag my wife there, but so far unsuccessfully.
I would use my buddy Gus. I should have him on and talk about this. I would use him as the example of the ultimate under 45 modern baseball fan. Like that, if I'm Major League Baseball, this is like the guy I would point to and be like, now here's a guy.
Right.
We have this
carrying
guy.
on the legacy, carrying on the torch.
Guy dragging his family and his wife. I'm sure his wife was delighted to go to Cooperstown.
Sure, as it would be.
His 3 kids. He plays video games with he plays MLB with his kids. His son can do all the batting stances in the Mets. If this is the kind of baseball fan Major League Baseball wants, I'm not sure how many of these people are out there anymore.
No, exactly.
You know?
That's the problem. But it is doing well as a sport, though. Don't they have like huge attendance numbers, and they're making a lot of money? I believe, allegedly.
It does, but I think with the attendance things, I think part of it is because they have all those discount deals now. Like they actively, 4 tickets, 4 free hot dogs, 4 sodas for $40, but you're sitting in not great
upper deck
seats, and I don't know. I don't know. I should. That'd be an interesting thing to research because they can fudge these attendance numbers, so I don't trust them.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about like the buzz in general. Like, did you have one conversation about the Philly-Tampa World Series?
No. Well, they got screwed there because it was teams with no national following. It was good for Philadelphia, but nobody else in America cared.
Yeah, but the NFL, it doesn't matter who the 2 teams are.
No, but that's the NFL. That's America's national sport now. It's surpassed.
You just
baseball.
proved my point. Then the NFL is America's sport.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't arguing.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to argue otherwise. No, the football.
I just felt like arguing.
And you could argue that NASCAR probably is bigger than baseball.
I think basketball's significantly bigger than baseball now. I think this next generation of kids now who are 15 to 16, like that range, who are going to be consumer adults soon, are going to be more basketball fans than baseball fans.
It has a following, but I don't know. Like I just think of like my friends, guys I know. We never really talk NBA that much.
Yeah, but you're late 30s.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the younger generation. And the whole soccer thing, like for about 30 years now, they've been the powers that be have been trying to shove soccer down our throats collectively in America. And if it hasn't caught on yet, when all these kids play soccer, the thing I don't understand. From the time we were kids, soccer first made inroads. I think it was after like the NASL thing, and all these soccer leagues sprung up, and people loved it because it was like, oh, it's not violent, and everybody's, girls can play with boys, and it's all equal, and there's no contact and whatever. For whatever reason, and people were into soccer, and if people our age that grew up playing it and younger than us, and they still don't follow it in the professional ranks, it's never going to catch on.
So you're not buying my theory that this decade with international soccer and HD and the fact, we always thought an American soccer league would be what it took for the sport to catch on. I'm starting to wonder if world soccer is what's going to catch on.
Well, I know. I think you might have written about that or something somewhere.
I did last week.
Yeah, I knew it sounded familiar. It's because you're not watching the best possible league in America. You're watching like a minor league, basically.
I think Americans want to watch the best, and they don't care what it is, and this is why the Olympics always, do you care about gymnastics?
No.
Do you care about figure skating? Do you care about the freaking pole vault?
All the time. I follow pole vault religiously.
But these are sports. Every 4 years when they come on, we're riveted. So, I just think it comes down to the world class thing. You just made me think of something, or I just made myself think of something. I was reading in this week's Sports Illustrated that Peter Ueberroth has made a deal with Comcast for an Olympics channel.
Oh, God.
He's all excited about it. This is going to be awesome. I got to say, this is one of the 5 worst ideas. Rarely do you read like a big money idea where you just know right away. That's an awful idea. And this is one of those cases.
Now, what's it going to show? Like old Olympics?
Well, here's the thing. So it's the U.S. Olympic Committee and Comcast forming to do this Olympic channel. They don't have any of the IOC rights. They have to get those.
Oh, yeah.
And they basically do like documentaries. And then if they can get the old rights, they'd have that. And then maybe, have you ever, it's inexplicable. Who wants an Olympic channel?
Nobody. People care about the Olympics every 4 years or 2 years.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Like, you care about the Winter Olympics, and then 2 years later you care about the summer, and that's it. I'm good. I'm not going to watch any of those sports the rest of the year at any time, ever.
Well, I guess they're thinking like the trials they could show.
Oh, God, that's brutal.
Coming up 2 weeks from tonight, the 4x400 trials.
That's appointment television, my friend.
And then at 9 o'clock, Steve Prefontaine,
Exactly.
the special 3-hour movie.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it'd be one thing if they just showed the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey games on a loop. I'd watch that. But,
see, that should be maybe that should be the channel. They just show the Olympic hockey Russia game.
Just show all their games on a continuous loop. I'd watch that over and over again, but that's about it.
Well, that's the thing I don't get. Like, if they did this in conjunction with the IOC and they were like, yeah, we're going to run all the old Olympics all the time, and then we're going to have the trials, and then we'll do other stuff and this and that. Like, I'm like, all right, that's interesting.
What if they did, like, documentaries like Bud Greenspan's Olympic Moments or something, you know?
Oh, God.
And then Mary Lou Retton looked at Bella Caroli.
Bud Greenspan presents Bud's Greenspan Remembering Bud's Greenspan's documentaries from 20 years ago. I always thought the Bud Greenspan documentaries were like awful.
Yeah, they're painful. It's too arty.
And he's painful.
And he's in there, and he always has the glasses on his head.
Yeah,
Can you put the glasses on, Bud, or take them off? Either put them on your eyes or take them off. Don't put it up on your head.
They're all done like exactly the same. It's the same formula with the same announcer's voice.
Good news.
Talks like this.
Good news, Bud. Your forehead has 20/20 vision. Congratulations. Throw some eyes on the top of your head, and you're right back in that thing.
What would happen if Bud Greenspan, with his glasses on his forehead, was being interviewed by Brian Gumbo holding a notepad? It's just one of the weirdest things ever.
That's a big-time philosophical question, like the tree falling in the woods and no one's there to hear it, yeah.
Have you watched Real Sports lately?
No, I still don't have HBO.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
I haven't been able to order it in the course of this 20-minute conversation.
Well, now there's a reason to get HBO.
That's right, Real Sports and Hung. And the
Brian Gumbo
documentary. I did. Here's the two things I wish I had HBO for. I wish I had it for the John Adams special. Because John Adams,
it's right in your wheelhouse.
That's right in my wheelhouse of history,
yeah.
And now to contemplate like going to get the DVDs is just too much of a commitment for me to set aside 14 hours or however long it is. But I'm intrigued by that. And
I would recommend against that.
And secondly, I would like it for this Ted Williams documentary that was on that I heard was good.
Yeah, you would have liked that.
By Ted Williams.
Yeah, you read his book.
I
mean, the book about him.
That Lee Montville book was like one of the best sports books I've ever read.
Oh, look at you. They should have put that on the back.
They should have, yeah.
JackO.
Maybe in this third printing of the paperback, they can throw me on there. And that was a fantastic book. Because he's such an interesting guy, Ted Williams.
Well, you know what? The underrated Ted Williams thing that has to rank in like the top 12 of any sports thing ever was when he could have sat out the doubleheader in the last day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just amazing.
If that happened now,
oh my God,
the media would be like the Meg Ryan orgasm in When Harry Met Sally.
That's right.
They'd be so excited that somebody did that. Everybody would just go. The around the horn guys would be just be the big orgy.
Oh my God, yeah, it would be unbelievable if somebody did that today.
He was like hitting 399.56. And they're like, yeah, it rounds up to 400. You good? Are you going to sit? Ted's like, I'm not sitting out. Go to hell.
Yeah, nowadays a player would be like figuring it out like 2 weeks ahead of time. Like, when's the earliest I can stop playing and still have the minimum number of at-bats required?
Right. Joe Bauer's like, am I at 419 at-bats? Are they able to get knee surgery? You know, it's funny when you see these things like about Ted Williams, or like the best example ever is Hunter S. Thompson. or John Belushi, like these really charismatic people that then they get remembered in these retrospectives, and the people are remembering them, and every story is horrible.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll never forget, Ted let you know where I stand. I'll never forget the time that he beat to death that Boston Globe writer with his baseball bat. I mean, Ted proved the point. And you're like, what? Like Hunter Thompson, it kind of kept you on your toes. Yeah, I remember times he'd just pull out a rifle and start shooting up in the air and just killing birds and deer.
Exactly.
But it's always like you hear these stories and you go, oh, that guy doesn't sound fun to be with.
No.
John Belushi. Yeah, John Belushi looked away for 1 second. He was out trying to buy Coke. Great guy. Never forget him. I remember that time he stole $100 from me so he could freebase.
No fun reminiscences of those guys. Somebody should do a Ted Williams movie. That's an interesting sports bio movie.
It's unbelievable that it hasn't happened yet. And in fact, if you see the documentary, which you can't because you won't spend $9 for HBO, the Ted Williams, you just think like, not only could it be a movie, but it could have been one of those like a John Adams type 6-part HBO, because John Adams certainly didn't need to be 8 parts, and neither did Bronx is Burning. So I think Ted Williams, they could. The
thing with Ted Williams is you don't just have baseball, but you have the World War II stuff, and then he was in Korea, and he was like John Glenn's wingman in Korea. So he really touches on like a lot of fascinating things. And then if you're into fishing, which I'm not, but people say he was like one of the legendary like fishermen of all time.
Yeah, and he had like the greatest eyesight of anybody ever. He had like 23 vision.
It's crazy.
20 minus 7 vision. The other funny thing is these guys that are really like irascible celebrities. Yeah. When they always get married once or twice, and then like near the end there's a longtime companion. Yes. Who like they don't marry, and she's never that good looking. Right. But it's like the only person who put up with his crap. It's like, yeah, Ted, he really settled down when he met Home Lee.
Yeah. There was some woman in Florida, and people were like, is that his mother? And it was like, it was like his late in life girlfriend.
She cooked with him, and they slept in separate beds, but he loved her.
Yeah, exactly. That's the famous thing. The guy's name escapes me now. The guy that wrote the Joe DiMaggio book. Yeah. And he did the article in that world's, the 20th century's greatest sports writing. What do you think of Ted Williams now?
Oh, yeah, Richard Ben Kramer.
Richard Ben Kramer, exactly.
Because Richard Kramer, he needed the Ben in there, because Richard Kramer wouldn't have stood out as a byline. I always love that.
You got to have the 3 names.
What did he write about the longtime companion, though?
Yeah, I think she was mentioned in there, like about, the girlfriend. But that whole article just encapsulated Ted Williams about, like, basically what a bastard
Ted
was.
Williams. Well, the Joe DiMaggio, that was always like, yeah, Joe, you did something he didn't like.
Oh, yeah. Joe's a little prickly.
Joe gave you that stare, and you weren't invited to dinner the next week. You never saw him again.
Joe, he just cut you loose, just cut you out, absolutely, including his own son, his own family.
Yeah.
Joe didn't play.
Joe's son was like, hey, Dad, can I have $20? You're dead to me.
Exactly.
Don't ever ask me for money again.
Joe DiMaggio was like the original I'm Keith Hernandez. He's like, I'm Joe DiMaggio.
Joe is another one that would have been a great movie.
Yeah, definitely. That's another one, exactly.
I always loved the whole Marilyn Monroe thing with him.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that he sent her, what was it, the roses? He sent like what? Like a...
To her grave every day for the rest of his life. He had roses sent to her grave, fresh red roses put on her grave.
It was every day, right?
Yeah, from the time she died in 1962 till he died sometime in the 90s. It's a lot of roses.
She must have been... I mean, she just must have been unbelievable.
And the fact that I think it was when they retired Mickey Mantle's number in '69, and Joe DiMaggio was on the field. No, it couldn't have been '69 because Robert Kennedy wasn't alive then. But there was something when they had something at Yankee Stadium, and Robert Kennedy was the senator for New York.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't go near him.
He wouldn't shake his hand because they blamed the Kennedys for her death.
Robert Kennedy's like, "Hey, Rod, Joe, nice to meet you." And Joe just turns.
Joe shunned him. Yeah.
The Joe DiMaggio sending the roses every day, combined with the fact that both Kennedys separately were having affairs with her, allegedly, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, I was thought, like, this hasn't been explored enough. I know she was Marilyn Monroe. I know she was famous, all that stuff, but was she like the Michael Jordan of sexual partners? Like, what went on with her?
Supposedly Sinatra had a turn or two as well.
Oh, I think everybody from that era did.
I think
don't think Elvis didn't step in.
He didn't throw his hat in the ring.
Don't think Sammy Davis didn't have an eye on her.
Oh, yeah, I think the whole Rat Pack probably.
Oh, you missed my joke.
With her.
I had a good joke there.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said, don't think Sammy Davis didn't have an eye on her.
I did miss that. Very good.
Thank you. I'll be here all week with Sammy Davis eyeball jokes. Marilyn Monroe, yet another one who could have been a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think they did do a movie. Didn't they do that one with Ashley Judd?
Yeah, I'm saying a good movie.
Okay. And Mira Sorvino.
Yeah, they had like two different actresses playing her.
Yeah, that was stupid. That's never going to work.
That's kind of like the U.S. Olympic Committee channel. An idea you hear right away, you go, yeah, that's probably not.
That's bad. Exactly.
Especially Ashley Judd and Mira Sorvino, who are like nothing alike.
You can tell how dated that movie is that those two were the leads in it.
Oh, that's
true.
true.
With Charlize Theron. No, you don't think so?
Well, she's a little old now.
Yeah.
It hurts to say that, but
it's painful.
Yeah. I listen, these are all good ideas, and I'm going to take them immediately to the head of HBO tomorrow.
Yeah. The Ted Williams biopic, they really have to get going on that.
Can you imagine if and that's another problem with baseball is there's nobody that people really give a crap about anymore. You know, there's no like LeBron Kobe type, is there? Yeah, I mean, have you ever like had a 10-minute conversation with somebody about Albert Pujols?
No, God.
I know he's awesome, his stats are incredible, he's fun to watch, but there's nothing really interesting.
Well, A-Rod generates a lot of buzz.
But not good buzz, though.
No, true.
I'm saying, like, can you imagine today, whatever the athlete equivalent of Ted Williams is? I guess you'd maybe say Tom Brady or LeBron James, somebody like that. That guy leaves the sport and goes and fights in the Iraq War and becomes like this hero fighter pilot, and while the real sports are going on.
I mean, the amazing thing was in World War II, like the aforementioned Joe DiMaggio, he would go and he just like hung out on an army base and played baseball and took like publicity photos, basically.
Right.
Ted Williams like signed up to become a pilot. He assumed that's what everybody was going to do. And then not only did he fight in World War II, but then because he was such a good pilot, then when the Korean War started, they called him back, and Ted was like, guys, anyone?
Well, actually, in the documentary, they kind of made it seem like it was the opposite. Like Ted was excited to get the call.
In Korea, really?
Yeah. He was like, yeah. No, I think he was like, yeah, I'm going to go kill some people.
Really?
I mean, he was like one of the best pilots they had.
Oh, I know.
Like one of their aces in the hole.
Yeah.
He thought they needed him.
Flying jets with John Glenn. I mean, that's no joke. John Glenn, was an astronaut. He's
meanwhile, Joe D's on some like army base in Toluca, Texas, smoking butts with like the privates.
Going like on war bonds tours, like, support the effort. Joe DiMaggio, I signed up, sort of.
That should be factored into the whole Ted versus Joe D thing.
Yeah, that's a factor. And his numbers, I mean, he lost so many years to World War II and then in Korea that his numbers would have been even more astronomical than they already were.
That would be a good subject for my Dr. Jack breakdowns.
The other thing for Ted Williams, though, it has to be a factor, is he was a very one-dimensional player. He could hit, but that was it. He was a horrific fielder.
Oh.
I'm sorry to throw him under the bus, but it's true. He didn't care about anything else besides hitting.
There was a little bit of Wilt Chamberlain in Ted.
Yeah.
That was the one, if you're going to looking for drawbacks. Like, he always got killed because he would, he'd do the Wade Boggs thing. Second guy in second, 2 outs, down by 1/9 inning, you draw a walk.
Right.
And his whole thing was that he didn't want to change the way he thought about hitting, and his approach was so different back then. Everybody's like, what does he care about a walk? Like, nobody gave a crap about OBP.
Right.
But I actually got to defend him on that one. Like,
and he had a bad World Series, the one World Series he was in.
Right, and it made it seem, in the documentary, a little bit like he'd gotten injured a couple weeks before and wasn't totally healthy. I wasn't sure if it was an excuse or it was legitimate, but I'd never heard that one before. But, yeah, he wasn't good in the World Series. He stunk. That was it.
But an interesting guy, nonetheless.
He would have been a lot better off in the modern era where there's 4 playoff rounds.
Yeah.
Or 7 playoff rounds, whatever we have.
Right. Well, that was always the biggest ridiculous thing in the 90s when they were like, Bernie Williams has the most home runs in Yankees postseason history. He just passed Mickey Mantle. Well, yeah. Mickey Mantle had one playoff round, the World Series, and that was it. Bernie gets 4. So.
Mickey Mantle wasn't playing in the ALDS.
That's exactly right. So.
That has to rank among the all-time what were you thinking dumb sports ideas, that they only had just the 2 pennants.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
So it was like, in September 5th, both pennant races could have been solved or done, basically.
Right.
And like, all right.
And yet somehow it was still America's pastime at that time because you had fewer options, fewer choices. There's only 3 TV stations, and not a lot of other sports that were in the public radar. So
they didn't have a lot of options back then, Johnny.
Exactly. So your sport could be over for all intents and purposes in September, and then come back on again in October, and it could still rule the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, boxing, horse racing, and baseball, college football.
I just can't imagine like Ted Williams gets to play in basically one playoff series.
Yeah.
And one playoff game. He did that one game against the Indians in 1948.
Right.
So he basically played in 8 total playoff games in 21 years.
Yeah, like Mattingly.
Oh, how dare you compare them.
No, it's a stretch to compare them in the same breath, but still.
Last thing before I let you go. Did you happen to see The Real World last night?
You know what? I have not watched any Real World this year.
Well, they finally broke another barrier last night.
Ooh.
Cutting.
Didn't they kind of already have that with that girl in San Diego who I think has since died?
Oh, Frankie.
Wasn't she
I forgot. Oh, man, I forgot about her.
Sorry.
Well, this one was a little more blatant. This was almost more mutilating.
Oh, God, really?
And then he had the roommate who wanted her to leave the house and was making jokes about it. It's great. This might be my last Real World season. I'm going to hash this out with Dave Jacoby hopefully this week or next. But
nice.
This could be it for me. When you have the roommate cheering on the self-mutilation, that might be where I'm done.
Jesus, that's a little strong there.
The sports gal and I happened to watch the season finale of 16 and Pregnant.
Yeah.
Have you seen that show?
I've seen a couple episodes here and there, yeah. I don't think I've ever watched the whole one, but I've seen snippets.
I might move. I'm thinking about moving countries. This could be it. This might be the deal breaker for me.
Really?
Yeah.
The fact that 16-year-olds are proud to be pregnant like that, or just the quality or the people, or what?
It's a glimpse of America that I wasn't ready for, and I'm not sure I wanted.
I can understand. Yeah, I feel the same way.
And actually, it's kind of emotional, I got to say.
Wow.
They give up the kid at the end.
Oh, really?
In the season finale. But then she has the kid, and there's this moment where you're not sure they're not going to give up the kid. Not like in Juno, she just gives up the kid. In real life, they're like, yeah, you have the kid for an hour, and they end up 5 hours later, they still have the kid, and you're like, are they going to keep this kid? And
right.
The whole show is about how they're not ready to have this kid, and they know it, and so then the birth parents come in, they hand the kid over. It's super emotional. Ooh. And my wife will cry at the drop of a hat. Like she cried during the Michael Jordan Naked commercial once, which was 30 seconds. So as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, man, this is emotional. And finally I realized, my wife's probably demolished. I'd look over and she is like Joan Crawford and Mommy Dearest, just makeup running everywhere. I was like, this is the lowest point we've ever had watching TV. You're sobbing.
TV of all places.
Yeah, you're sobbing during an MTV show.
That's really not good.
Yeah.
16 and Pregnant, man, I'll tell you. It's crazy. I don't know where things go from here in society. I just don't.
Well, here's what worries me about 16 and Pregnant, the chance that people will want to be on this show.
Right. Come and knock me up so we get on 16 and Pregnant.
Yeah, or, hey, I'm pregnant. Hey, let's contact the 16 and Pregnant producers. That's where I worry, and that's how I worry about America.
God help us. Probably true.
Johnny, how worried are you this week?
Like a 1.5.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm a lot higher.
I can imagine. As well you should be.
I'm going to say I'm a 9.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a 9. Because we can't hit, and they don't seem to be that interested in carrying this.
I'm so bummed out about this podcast because I know it's going to bite me in the ass because I know it's going to spur the Red Sox on now like it always does when I make fun of Big Papi or something.
Well, we taped it on a Thursday, so we'll see what happens on Thursday night. I don't remember if there's...
The Red Sox have Thursday night off, but they play the Orioles at home, who you own, so that'll get things, get started, unfortunately.
That'll be good. Good to see the Orioles. Hey, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Hey. How are you?
Hey there. Welcome to town.
Can I get some breath mints? All right, Johnny.
I'll talk to you, buddy.
We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I get % off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.
This concludes another installment of the B.S Report. And with all the talk about sports, Bill Simmons neglected to mention this important just breaking news, which frankly cannot go unstated. This summer, Subway is teaming up with Live Nation to bring you great food and great music for a great value. Right now, buy a Subway $5 footlong and get a Live Nation concert ticket for just $5 to some of the hottest Live Nation shows like Nickelback, The Fray, and Crew Fest 2. Ticket price does not include fees. See the nearest Subway for details.